The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Diego Castro, bringing you the biggest headlines from around the world. The United States denies a report that Israel and Hamas have already agreed to temporarily pause their conflict. The U.S., however, said it is continuing to work to get an agreement between the two sides. Citing people familiar with the supposed deal, the Washington Post earlier reported that Israel and Hamas had reached a deal that would free dozens of women and children held hostage in Gaza in exchange for a 5-day pause in fighting. The newspaper also said an overhead surveillance would monitor ground movement to police the pause. For their part, Israel is also hopeful that a significant number of hostages could be released by Hamas in the coming days.
We are hopeful that we can get a significant number of hostages freed in the coming days. I don't want to go into the details of these talks. They are obviously very sensitive. The less we go into the details, the better the chances of such a deal. But they are very serious efforts, and I'm hopeful that we can have a deal in the coming days.
Israel claims that a captive soldier was executed by Hamas at Gaza's main hospital, Al-Shifa. Israel is searching for some 240 people Hamas allegedly kidnapped to Gaza after a cross-border assault, one of whom was 19-year-old Israeli army conscript Noah Marciana, whose body was recovered last week. Hamas said she died in an Israeli airstrike, but Israel refuted this, citing a forensic examination. The Israeli military also released a video showing a group of men frog marching an individual into a hospital. Hamas did not immediately comment on this, but earlier said it took some hostages to hospitals for treatment. Premature babies left behind at Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital have been evacuated. The UN and Palestinian Red Crescent carried out a joint operation to move 31 babies in incubators to Rafah, near the border crossing to Egypt. The Palestinian Health Ministry said they would be stabilized in Rafah before being taken to hospitals in Egypt. The ministry said some infants had experienced vomiting, diarrhea, and weight loss after their drinking water had been polluted. Some were already in critical condition, and one had to be put on a ventilator. The Gaza Health Ministry earlier reported that 8 premature babies had died at Al-Shifa due to lack of power and medicine. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now World. I'm Diego Castro. Argentines headed to polls on Sunday in a delicately poised presidential runoff. Gunning for the presidency is Peronist Economy Minister Sergio Massa at the helm of the country's worst economic crisis in 2 decades. Massa is up against radical libertarian outsider Javier Milei, the slight favorite in pre-vote polls. With many Argentines unconvinced by either candidate, some have opted to vote for the lesser evil of the two. Whoever wins will shake up Argentina's political landscape and economic roadmap. SpaceX's uncrewed spacecraft Starship is presumed to have failed in space minutes after lifting off. The 2-stage rocket ship blasted off from the Elon Musk-owned company's launch site in Texas on Saturday, but the rocket's Super Heavy first-stage booster exploded over the Gulf of Mexico shortly after detaching. The core Starship booster carried further towards space, but SpaceX suddenly lost contact with the vehicle. This is the second test flight for the Starship rocket, which was developed to carry astronauts to the moon and beyond. Pope Francis hosts a special lunch to mark the Catholic Church's World Day of the Poor. His guests include a community of trans women who have forged a remarkable friendship with the pontiff. More details in this video courtesy of the Associated Press.
Hello.
E io mi metto un cappuccio e mi faccio un giretto così dopo.
Stamattina acqua fa bene, dopo no, ma adesso
Ay, no, vos te la querés comer hasta dentro y no la
Bello per noi trans che siamo un po' dimenticati.
Laura!
È un gran piacere, un aiuto morale per noi, perché noi tante volte le persone si dimenticano di noi, no?
Ok.
Non me lo sono aspettato, non me l'avessi aspettato mai, sono molto contenta, grazie a Dio e a Lui per tutto lo che mi ha aiutato nella pandemia, quando hemos stato male, in più è argentino come me.
So she left her
Chiedo scusa, posso avvicinarmi?
And those are the top world headlines of the hour. Join us again at 9:45 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News. All sides, all the time.